Allah. Jazakumullahu khairan for invitation. Barakallahu feekum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون. لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة. أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون.
يا رب اجعلنا منهم يا رب.
هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة. هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر. سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى. له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم.
سبحان الله. جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيكم. ربي يعطيك حتى يرضيك ويبارك لك في أهلك وفي مالك وفي أولادك ويحفظك من كل مكروه. Keep the Shaykh in your dua. May Allah give him the best in dunya and akhirah. May Allah make it easy for him. May Allah protect him and may Allah allow him to always be happy and comfortable and a source of khair wherever Allah takes him. Ya Rabb, ameen, ameen, ameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala al-mab'uthi rahmatan lil alameen. سيدنا مولانا محمد عليه وعلى آله أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. It is so good, mashallah, tabarakallah, to be sitting with all of you, to be sharing this moment with you, especially after hearing the Quran, especially after the khatam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the dua, Ya Rabb, Ameen, and may Allah keep it sincere, Ya Rabb, Ameen. Tonight we continue with the rightly guided khulafa and those that walked in their path. We talked about Abu Bakr, we talked about Umar, we talked about Uthman, we talked about Ali, radiallahu anhuma, may Allah be pleased with all of them. And tonight we're going to be talking about one of those people that is considered to be the fifth rightly guided Khalifa. And this is Omar ibn Abdul Aziz. Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, his story actually begins with his great-grandfather, which is Omar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Omar ibn al-Khattab had a nightly ritual or routine where he would go around and he would check on Medina, what's happening. He would read the pulse, see what's the struggle, what is going on in people's mind. And when he's going through the nights of walking through the streets of Medina, he finds and he hears a mother talking to her daughter. And the mother saying to her daughter, we have milk, but we need to sell more. So add a little bit of water to the milk so we increase the volume and we can make more money. So then her daughter says, Mom, and she was from Banu Hilal, the tribe, the famous tribe, the Hilal tribe. So she said to her mom, this would not be appropriate. This would be considered to be cheating. And Umar has warned us about this. You know, Umar used to give beautiful khutbahs, very heartfelt reminders. And so she's saying to her mom, you know, we heard the Khalifa, we heard the Imam say that this is not acceptable. So then her mom says, come on, what are you talking about, Umar? He's not here. Why are you talking about Umar? Umar's not around. He's not here. It's late at night. And then her daughter says, Mom, even if Umar is not around, Allah is always aware. Allah is always around through His knowledge. Allah is present through His awareness. So what did she say? She said, you know what? You're right. So Umar ibn Khattab, he put a mark on this house because this was late at night. And he made the intention to come back and visit and to see who this person was. And he went to his children and he told them, look, one of you, which of you wants to get married? Asim said, Baba, Dad, I would like to get married. He said, I have the perfect wife for you, someone who truly fears and loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Asim, which is Umar's son, he ends up marrying this daughter from Banu Hilal. And eventually, they give birth to Layla, the daughter of Asim. And Layla, she marries Abdul Aziz ibn Marwan al-Hakam, the leader of Egypt. And through that birth, they give birth to, or through that marriage, they give birth to Omar ibn Abdul Aziz. Now, Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, Omar ibn Khattab, his grandfather, great-grandfather, he saw a dream, or you can even call it a true dream. And in this true dream, he saw that one of the people from his lineage would fall and he would have a scar on his head. And this person who has a scar on his head, Allah would destine for him to see victory and to see grace and to see a form of guidance that is exceptional from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Umar shared this with his progeny, that there's going to be one of you, maybe with a scar, that Allah destines for khair. We don't know what that khair is. But that's why he was known. Umar would eventually be known as Ashaj Bani Umayyah, the one who's scarred, the one whose head got bloody from Bani Umayyah, because one day he was playing in the stables with the horses and he was racing quickly and he fell off the horse. And when he fell off the horse, his head opened up. And as blood was gushing, his father was worried about him. Really worried. So he was very sad, holding him close. And so to comfort him, he says, look, you look at the wound and you realize this is not going to heal easily. It's going to leave a scar. So he tells his son to comfort him, you're so lucky, this might be the scar that your great-grandfather mentioned, and you might be the one that Allah destines for good. And subhanAllah, that ends up being the case. And Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, as a young boy, born in Egypt, he was born in luxury. This was the height of Banu Umayyah's reign. They had all kinds of privileges and bounties and blessings and servants and silk and gold and silver. They would eat the best kind of food, and they had the best life in Egypt at that time. Now his father and his mother both decided they're going to send him away from Egypt and back to Medina. And they wanted him to stay in Medina and to spend some time memorizing the Quran, memorizing the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, getting acquainted with the Arabic language, perfecting it, and eventually becoming one of the leaders and scholars of Medina. And he went to Medina. And he, in many years, he actually lived by himself with the family from Banu Umayyah. And his parents sometimes, would visit him, check upon him, he would go back. But in many ways, it's like a boarding school where he was spending most of his time away from his parents, learning and memorizing. And he managed, subhanAllah, to memorize the Quran. He managed to memorize many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He managed to become an expert in fiqh, jurisprudence, and Islamic law. And once when his mom was visiting him, she saw him crying. So she told him, my son, what's making you cry? He said, Mom, I was reflecting on the akhirah, the day of judgment, and I was reflecting on death, and I was reflecting on the day that I would leave this world and wondering what kind of legacy would I leave behind? And will I be reunited with the people that I love? Imagine as a child, that's the reason that he's crying. Yes, late into his childhood, closer to his teens, but it shows you the kind of heart that he has. And sometimes as parents, you look sometimes at your child, your son, your daughter, and sometimes they surprise you. As young as 4, 5, 6, 7 years of age, you look at them and the kind of thoughts that they have, the kind of feelings that they have, the kind of connections that they have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes it leaves you in awe. And his main teacher was Salih ibn Kaythan from the Tabi'een. And Salih invested a lot into Omar ibn Abdul Aziz from an early age. And that's why, subhanAllah, one of the lessons, we can take so many lessons just to reflect. Number one, Umar, the grandfather, he was going around in Medina, checking up on people. Sometimes someone is responsible for community, they don't even show up. You don't see them around. They could not care less. They're getting their paycheck. They want everything to be on autopilot, and they have no relationship with the people. Let AI run the government. I don't have time for people. Whereas Umar, you could see he would walk around and get to know the people and listen. He wants to know what are people's struggles? What are they not saying to him? What is going on in people's lives? And then, subhanAllah, look at how, the kind of love. Nowadays, you don't come home to your child and say, hey, you're going to marry her. There's no way. That level of trust between a father and a son rarely exists. But that's the kind of love and trust that they had, where the father, Umar, would say to his son, you know what? You're getting a gold mine. And he would understand. And he would respect his father's opinion. And he would know that this is a great choice. And that love that the father has for his son, sometimes in many ways greater than the love that the son has for himself. And so, this beautiful blessing, the fertile ground leads to beautiful fruits, good fruits. So here you have fertile ground, a beautiful marriage. And that marriage, it wasn't about beauty or money, it was about what? This is someone who fears Allah. That woman from Banu Hilal, she feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She gave her mom advice, this is not the way to do things. Her mom accepted the advice. Through that, a marriage eventually gives rise to this incredible person, Omar ibn Abdul Aziz. Now, growing up, is life easy when you're living in Medina by yourself? No. But when he has mentors around him, especially his main teacher, Salih, he kept a close eye and held him accountable. We need sometimes mentors. We need teachers in our lives that will hold us accountable to truly reach our potential. Otherwise, we become complacent. We become lazy. We accept the status quo. And this is why there's a saying, in Egypt, they say, if you don't have a boss, if you don't have a teacher, if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, go and pay. Pay to have a boss. Pay to have a coach. Pay to have a mentor. We have the other way around. We think, I want to be free. I want to have my own business. I want to be autonomous. I want to be independent. كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى. Whereas, these earlier predecessors, they had that trust. There was that mutual trust where they wanted someone senior in their lives to help them cover their blind spots, to help them see better, and to help them train to be and to become better. So here's an example. Once Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, as a young student in Medina, he missed the first row prayer for Isha Salah. His teacher noticed. So when he came later, he says, why did you miss the first row? You should be in the first row. There's no exception. He said, my hairdresser was taking her time, combing my hair, making it really nice, and I had to wait until she was done. And that's why I came late. So it shows you, Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, even growing up in Medina, he still had what? Privileges. Because the Banu Umayyah, he's directly from the family. And so his teacher wanted to make a lesson, wanted to teach him a lesson, wanted to leave him with something that he would never forget. So he wrote to his father, this is what happened to your son. Your son missed the first row in prayer because what? Because he was getting his hair done. Deal with it. So the father sent a letter with someone, says as soon as you get there, you shave his entire head off to teach him a lesson for missing the first row in prayer once. And that goes to show you the discipline that these people had. You show up to prayer consistently, especially the first row, what do you think is going to happen? There's going to be barakah in your life, especially for the men. The women, their prayer at home in the masjid, the same reward, if not even greater reward at home. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy because of all the tasks and responsibilities that you have going on in your life. Allah has given you the rukhsah. But for the men, the majority of the fuqaha say that if you can, especially in a place where the masjid is close, you should show up. And you see the fruit of that. So look at the fertile ground, the right upbringing, the accountability, the teachers, the mentors, the investment from the family, showing up to prayer. His dad passed away when Umar, the son, was a young teen. And it was difficult. So he went to his uncle, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and he lived with his uncle, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he raised him, continued to invest in him, and that's where he fell in love with Fatima bint Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and he married Fatima, the daughter of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. And Fatima, again, privileges upon privileges. She was blessed with a sheer beauty. She was raised well. Again, she was in many ways very, very privileged. So sometimes, subhanAllah, you read the poetry and they said about her, Bintul Khalifati wal Khalifatu Jadduha, Ukhtul Khalifati wal Khalifatu Zawjuha. She was the daughter of a Khalifa, the granddaughter of a Khalifa. She was the sister of a Khalifa, and eventually she would marry a Khalifa as well, Omar ibn Abdul Aziz. So imagine from all rounds, she was surrounded by privilege and men in authority. Walid ibn Abdul Malik assigned Omar ibn Abdul Aziz to be the leader of Medina. And when he went to Medina, imagine during the reign of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, Omar ibn Abdul Aziz is now the wali of Medina, the Amir of Medina. And the people of Medina fell in love with him. Because this is someone who has the Quran memorized, privileges, he understands the language of power. They loved him. And during the time that he led Medina, other cities said, hey, we want you to lead us too. So Mecca joined in, said, we want you to lead. Ta'if joined in. Imagine localities are coming to you and saying, hey, you're leading this part, we want to be part of that too. Because of how much they loved his leadership style, his humility, and the way that he was available to people, listening to people, getting people's needs done and fulfilled. One of the positions that eventually led to his exile. I want you to imagine, Umar, this man of justice, was exiled from Medina, exiled from Ta'if, exiled from Mecca. And the reason for that is because when Hajjaj was known for his audacity. He did a lot of things that were not the best. Yes, the dots on the Quran, and he contributed to the dotting system in the Quran. That's one of the good things that he did. But Al-Hajjaj, he was known for being brutal. He killed many people, and he was very aggressive. Aggressive. In many ways, he fits into the definition of a tyrant. And so Omar ibn Abdul Aziz says, there's no way I'm going to let Al-Hajjaj enter any locality that I control. So you're not coming to Mecca, you're not coming to Medina, you're not coming to Ta'if. You're no good. It's like, I want to come for Hajj. You can't even come for Hajj. Imagine, he says, I'm not going to let you come in to Mecca or Medina or any of that, because you're a man who's done so wrong that I will not tolerate your presence. If you come in, I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to arrest you and put you to trial. You're probably going to be... So, Al-Hajjaj complained, and eventually the pressure on the Umayyads was so heavy that they forced him, Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, into exile. And so he would, for a few years, he would not show up in public spaces. He would be in private. And sometimes when he would show up, let's say for Hajj, when he went once with Sulaiman, who was one of the Umayyads, and he was the ruler at the time, Sulaiman, he would be told by Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, be careful, life is not worth it. And he kept giving him advice. So instead of taking a public role, he became an advisor to the Khalifa. And once when they were in Hajj together, he looked at the Hujjajs, look how amazing the number of people are that have come for Hajj. And then Umar ibn Abdul Aziz told Sulaiman, be careful. You should not be happy that you have a large number of people here, because each and every one of them might have a reason to hold you accountable in front of Allah. So don't be excited about the number of people that are here. Rather, think to yourself, each and every one of those people I'm responsible for. What a test. What a test in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he got him to see the world from a different perspective. Once, for example, rain was falling and thunder, lightning, it was very loud that Sulaiman had to cover his ears. And one of the thunderbolts hit so quickly and suddenly that he kind of reacted, jolted him. And so Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he told him, look, rain, which is a form of rahmah and mercy from Allah, look how jolting and how it can wake you up and shake you. Imagine the punishment and being accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what that can do to you. So eventually, when Sulaiman was on his deathbed, he asked Raja ibn Haywa, who was one of the greatest of the tabi'een, a teacher and an advisor. He told him, look, I'm leaving this world and I want to give the khilafah to someone who deserves it. That's why I asked you as a teacher, who should I give it to? My son? He's like, your son is not old enough. My brother? Your brother is not just enough. This person, that person? No. I can't let it go from Banu Umayyah, because Banu Umayyah will not accept it. It has to be someone from within at least. He said, look, your best choice is Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. He might be able to undo some of the damages that were done, and he might be able to implement justice in a way where he would honor the legacy of the Umayyads. And that's what Sulaiman did. He said, you know what, Umar, I'm going to write in a note that when I do pass, he's going to be elected as the Khalifa. And Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he worried, because every time he would see Sulaiman had that look. And they didn't want Umar ibn Abdul Aziz to know, because if he knew, he would have found a way to get out of it. They didn't want him to know. So it was a secret between Sulaiman and his advisor, Raja ibn Haywa. And it was told to him that he should only open this message with the signature, the official seal, once it was time and he left this world. And finally, when he did pass, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon all of our brothers and sisters in Islam, it was known now to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, it became clear that he would eventually now be selected as the next Khalifa. And what was his immediate reaction? He shut it down. He said, no, I don't want the Khilafah. He refused. He refused again. He refused again multiple times, until all of the scholars and the leaders had to beg him to accept it for the sake of the community. And eventually he did. When he became the Khalifa, I want you to imagine the earliest things that he did. Number one, he brought all of his family from Banu Umayyah. And he said, I'm about to do something that you're going to dislike me for in this dunya, but you may thank me for it in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. all of the possessions that you have accumulated, all of the land that you've taken, all of the wealth that you've accumulated over time that is unjustly earned, unjustly deserved, I am going to, my first decree is all of it goes back to the treasury, the public trust, the public fund, the public charity of the believers. And then I'm going to assign someone whose job is to come, and there's going to be a panel. Their job is to return any wealth that has been forcibly taken from anyone who is justly deserving for that to be given back. The Umayyads hated this. People lost a lot of money. People lost a lot of land. But that was his first mandate. His second mandate, he said, I refuse to live in the palace. And I refuse the guards. I'm going to stay in my house, and I'm not going to get the privileges. I refuse to, third mandate, I refuse to take any income from this. I'm going to fund it myself and find other ways to fund it. Then he brought his wife, Fatima, and he told Fatima, I am going to try to be different and to set an example like the Prophet ﷺ, and to reverse the way the Khilafah has become, a way to dominate and a way to, possess land and displace people. I'm going to change that narrative. My main focus is to do that. And to do that, I have to go to the other extreme. I have to go the other way. I have to hold myself to the highest level of accountability. So I'm giving you two choices. And because Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, he had the Quran memorized, he was alluding to the ayat in Surah Al-Ahzab, يا أيها النبي قل لأزواجك إن كنتن تريدن حياة الدنيا وزينتها فتعالين أمتعكن وأسرحكن سراحا جميلا وإن كنتن تريدن الله ورسوله والدار الآخرة فإن الله أعد للمحسنات منكن أجرا عظيما يا نساء النبي لستن كأحد من النساء إن اتقيتن فلا تخضعن بالقول فيطمع الذي في قلبه مرض وقلن قولا معروفا وقرن في بيوتكن ولا all of these ayat. So he recited these ayat to her. These are the ayat of takhyir, the ayat of choices. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he gave his wives a choice. When they came and said, Ya Rasulullah, the rest of the women in Medina, they're living. Now they're enjoying. There's a lot of money, a lot of wealth. What about us? Where do you see our future? So the Prophet ﷺ, he gave them a choice. You want the dunya? Let me know. I'll give you the dunya and everything in it. But then we go our separate ways. Because it's not the lifestyle that I want. You want the privileges, I'll give you all of that. وَأُسَرِّحْكُنَّ سَرَاحًا جَمِيلًا. And then I'll have a severance package for you that you're going to enjoy. And I'll do it in a way that is graceful, in a way that is beautiful. But if you want Allah and the Messenger, then know that this is not the lifestyle that I want. And know that with Allah is much better reward and much better blessing. So Fatima looked at her husband and said, I understand and I choose you. She told Umar, I choose you. He said, do you know the implications? She says, I know the implications. He told her, all of your possessions you have to donate back. I will. The gold, even the gold that you have, much of it is undeserved. I'll give it back. So imagine she went from all of these privileges. She donated her possessions, her wealth, and she donated her gold for the sake of Allah. So that no one could say the Khilafah, the leadership has become what? Has become about power grabbing, and has become about materialism, and has become about selfish interests. And Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, when you read the stories, the example that he set is just incredible. As examples, number one, he would eat lentils almost every day. He wouldn't want diversity and too much food. Lentils. To the point where some of the helpers in the house, they began to complain. So one of the helpers said to Fatima, what's going on? Every day, lentils, what's going on? There's no diversity, there's no other food in the world. So Fatima says, listen, this is the food that the Khalifa eats. The Khalifa is not complaining, why are you complaining? So lentils, not more than that. Two, he wouldn't wake up the helpers. If something was needed to be done, he would say, let them sleep. So once oil ran out, back then they needed the oil for the lamps, for the lanterns. Oil ran out. So one of the people says, oh, just wake up one of the servants, wake up one of the helpers. He says, no, let them sleep. Let them sleep. Let them get a little bit of rest. Another example, he would cry often reading the Quran at night. And once his wife heard him crying, so she began to cry. The kids heard their mom crying, so they began to cry. So the neighbors came like, why are you guys crying? Why is everybody crying? And they said, well, our father, Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, was reading an ayah, فَرِيقٌ فِي الْجَنَّةِ وَفَرِيقٌ فِي السَّعِيرِ. There's going to come a day where a certain group of people will be given, admitted to Jannah, and a certain group of people will be given the punishment. He says, I was reading this ayah, repeating over and over again, wondering which party, which group am I going to be with? Can you imagine? The whole family crying over an ayah of the Quran. This is the kind of hearts that were alive that these people had. And remember, it trickles down. Trickles down. When a father, when a mother lead this way, the children also absorb this level of wara'. They absorb this level of taqwa. They absorb this level of khashiyah. Once he was visited by someone who came to ask him a question, and it was a business meeting. Then the conversation changed, and now they start talking about personal things. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz turned the lamp off. He turned the lantern off. And the guy's like, hey, we're going to speak in darkness? Like, why are you turning it off? He's like, well, we were discussing something for the state, and that's why I was able to turn the lamp on or the lantern on, because it's public money. But now that we're discussing something personal, I can't use the lantern oil because that's a public trust. Sometimes if we actually hold ourselves accountable this way, you'd be surprised how many conflicts of interest we have. You have your work laptop, sometimes you use it for personal stuff. You have, your work budget that sometimes you use it for personal stuff. Your work travel points, sometimes you use it for personal. So many of these conflicts of, if we actually hold ourselves to that level of accountability. And again, this is where it's a position of wara', right? We talked about wara'. Wara' is leaving not just the gray. Wara' is leaving some doors of the halal so that you have a leeway. Some people like to dance on the edge. Halal, haram. Ooh, I want to know. I'm just testing boundaries. Some people like to test boundaries with Allah. So some people come and they say to the Shaykh, yes, I know it's haram, but how haram is it? Like, how many years are we talking about in Jahannam? Is this a haram that I would need Umrah for or Hajj for? Some people talk like that, right? Where others are like, you know what? I'm not even going to stay away from the halal or the gray. I'm going to stay away from some of the halal, so there's a leeway. I put some distance between me and any kind of question marks, any kind of gray. Another example is Omar ibn Abdul Aziz. There's a bunch of apples that come, and he's dispersing the apples. Similar to what happened with Hussein and Hassan, radiallahu anhuma. One of his children, he picks up one of the apples, and this is supposed to be given as a trust. And he rushes to him and he says, don't touch it. He grabs the apple quickly. And then the child didn't know what happened, so he went home crying to his mom, Fatima. He's like, Mama, Baba just stole the apple from me. I was about to eat it. Everybody else is eating. Why can't I eat it? So Fatima, when Umar ibn Abdul Aziz came back home, Fatima's like, come on, man. The kid came crying because you took the apple from his hand. What's going on? He said, Wallahi, it was like snatching a piece of my heart. I didn't want to do it, but I couldn't risk the family of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz putting in their belly what is unlawful, what is haram. We have the example of the righteous lady that used to tell her husband before he would go for work, she would tell him, ittaqillaha fina, have taqwa of Allah. I'm trusting you. I'm doing the best that I can with the kids at home. So when you leave for work, make sure that every dollar that you earn is halal, because I can put up with hunger and thirst. I can put up with discomforts, but I cannot put up with the punishment of Jahannam. So اتقي الله فينا فإن نصبر على الجوع والعطش ولا نصبر على حر جهنم على نار جهنم. We can put up, we can be patient, we can tolerate food, lack of food, we can tolerate hunger and thirst, but we cannot tolerate the punishment that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And subhanallah, so many examples. Another one, a woman comes and she's saying, where's Umar ibn Abdul Aziz? I heard he's giving out charity. He said, go here, there, his house. She comes, knocks on the house. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz opens. She looks at him, looks at the family, looks at the way they're living. She says, I would just come and say salam. They asked her, why didn't you ask? He's like, I felt shy. This guy is living a poorer life than me. How am I going to ask? I felt shy asking. I felt shy asking him. Okay, so imagine that. Another example is Levantinian. Levantinian means from the Sham, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, that region. Sham, the Levantinian region. Christians came to Omar. And he was probably in Hims at the time. They came to him and complained. They said, look, some of your Muslims, they stole land from us. Land that belonged to us, and they built a masjid on it. And that land belonged to the church. So Omar ibn Abdul Aziz sat with his advisors. And the advisors, and he came up with the decision that this land, the masjid has to be destroyed, and the land has to be given back to the Christians. And that's the official decree that he gave. The Muslims thought this would be a politically one of the most dangerous things that you can do. It would set an unbelievable precedence. So they came and they negotiated, they tried. He said, absolutely not, I'm not changing my mind. What was taken forcibly has to be given back justly. And so they realized they can't win with him. There's no way to change his mind. So they went to the Christians and said, look, we're going to give you 10 times more land, whatever you want, but just don't shut the masjid down. So they had to convince the Christians to forfeit the claim because Umar would have given it. And they had to give them, promise them much more, better land to kind of what? To kind of keep the masjid going. And so eventually they came back and said, Umar, our problem has been resolved. He's like, no, are you absolutely sure? Yes, our problem has been resolved. He's like, in that case, khalas. You got what you wanted and better, we'll keep the masjid. That was the only way that he let that go. And again, subhanAllah, I promise you guys we're going to do 8:45, so we're just nearing the end. You look at all these stories and you'd be surprised. I remember when I hear, growing up, hearing the stories of Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, you think this guy ruled for like 15 years. You hear about the people of Medina thriving, one of the best moments, golden ages in Islam. There was almost no poor people that you could find. You had to go begging people to receive zakah. Hey, does anyone want zakah? We're good. And because he set such a good example, it trickles down. You know what happens? Sometimes people live beyond their means because everybody else is living beyond their means. But when he set a good example, everybody's like, oh, you know, alhamdulillah. But Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he ruled for, anyone want to take a guess? How many years he ruled for? 2 years, 5 months, and 5 days. 2 years, 5 months, and 5 days. That's how long he ruled. How old was he when he passed? 39 years of age. So, meaning that he started ruling when he was 37, maybe 36, and he passed when he was 39. How did he pass? He was killed. He was martyred. How was he martyred? Look at the way that, subhanAllah, he leaves this world. His own cousin, an Umayyad, he hires somebody to go, Yazid ibn Abdul Malik, he hires somebody to go and to poison him. And this man comes in and he does poison him, and then he drinks Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. And after drinking, he starts feeling very strange and he starts sweating. The people around him said, you look like you're having an episode. What's going on? You look like someone who's in delirium, someone who's in psychosis. He says, no, it's not psychosis. I know what happened. I know this is the end. I know that I've been poisoned. He said, bring the guy who just put the cup. Brought him in. He says, who put you to it? Who put you up to it? Who paid you? And how much did he pay you? Of course, the man knew he was caught at that time. He had to confess. So he said, I was paid 1,000 dinars. He said, give the money back. Put it back to the treasury. I don't want my death to have taken money from the treasury. So he asked the money to be given back. He said, who put you up to it? He said, Yazid ibn Abdul Malik. He said, listen, don't look back. Run before anybody else finds out. Because otherwise you'll be killed. And know that I forgive you. And I hold no grudge. And he left. And he went into hiding. And he was not caught. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? The last things that he did, give the money back. It's not worth it. and run because I don't want you to be killed for this. So as he's passing, leaving this world, his wife, Fatima bint Abdul Malik, his wife's brother comes in and he says, you know what, people are going to come and visit. You're dying, people are going to come and visit you. So let us at least dress you up, make you look good. So Fatima tells this man, her brother, he doesn't have any other clothing. He only has one garment. And that garment is 4 dirhams. Can you imagine? He would just wash it, rewear it, dry it, it's very warm. That's all that he had as inside clothing. That's the kind of life that he had. And when he passed this world, subhanallah, the people came in, they said, look, as last few moments, they said, look, write something for your family. Like you can say this house belongs to them, this land. Write something for them so that at least they have something. You're dying so young. Last decree, do something for your family. He says, إِنَّ وَلِيَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِي نَزَّلَ الْكِتَابِ وَهُوَ يَتَوَلَّى الصَّالِحِينَ. He recited an ayah from the Quran. What does this ayah mean? إِنَّ وَلِيَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِي نَزَّلَ الْكِتَابِ, which means Allah is my wali, Allah is my helper, Allah is my first line of defense, Allah is the first person I turn to, or the first one that I turn to. الَّذِي نَزَّلَ الْكِتَابِ, He's the one who revealed the book. وَهُوَ يَتَوَلَّى الصَّالِحِينَ, and He takes care of the salihin. He said, I'm not going to let my family depend on my gift for them. I'm going to leave them in the trust of Allah. Now, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan is an example. He left for his family, each and every one of his children, 1,000 golden dinars, 1 million golden dinars. That's crazy. Yet, years later, one of the sons of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was seen begging through the streets of Basra. And the other, one of the sons of Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, eventually became one of the most successful business people, and he built his business from the ground up. So imagine you sometimes inherit wealth, that wealth kills you. You inherit nothing but the dua of your father and the legacy that he set and the morals and the values that he stood for. That could move you as a man to accomplish things that money can never move you to accomplish. That's the kind of vision that he had, rahimahullah, radiyallahu anhu, وعن آل بيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعن الخلفاء الراشدين وعن الصحابة والتابعين وأتباعهم إلى يوم الدين. Specifically, when he passed away, he had 17 dinars. His net worth was 17 golden coins. And from those 17 golden coins, 5 dinars had to be used to prepare his kafan. 2 dinars had to be used for the burial. So imagine 17 minus 7, only 10 dinars left. Other things along the way, expenses, paying things off. At the end, 17 dirhams, silver coins. Dirhams are less than dinars. 17 dirhams, silver coins were left for his children. How many children did he leave behind? 11 children. 11 children. Yet, most of them eventually would become either scholars, successful business people, or incredible contributors in one way or the other, because he left them in the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the legacy of Omar ibn Abdul Aziz, and I hope inshallah that we benefited. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept and reward you, Ya Rabb, Ameen. We're going to start the qiyam now, inshallah, and there's going to be dua at the end of the qiyam. So hopefully, inshallah, we'll wrap up the qiyam within, let's say, half an hour, 40 minutes, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.